How's it going? I'm going to run through some recent questions that were posted under Lawn Care Millionaire videos that I have recorded. And the first one is from Martin, thinking about adding pest control services to my lawn care business. Is there high, good profit margins in pest control? Is it worth it? Yes, the margins in pest control are really good. You can think about the potential margins of fertilization weed control to get a feel for how good they are. Maybe you're in fertilization weed control right now and you're saying, they're not that great. They are good. They're really good. It's about how you build the business and price and things of that sort. So I would put pest control margins way up the list on some of the very best services you can provide. Is it worth it? Yes, it is. But I will tell you that it's not a cakewalk. There are some services that you can easily add to your service offering to your clients, and your clients will just immediately buy them. We have not found that to be the case with pest control. Pest control takes a little bit of work to get your clients to leave their current pest providers and switch to you. That's a whole long conversation about why we theorize that to be the case. I'm simply trying to say, if you're mowing lawns and you start adding bush trimming, very easy to sell that service. If you're mowing lawns and you start adding pest control, not every client's going to suddenly say, great, you're in the pest control business, we're signing up. It's not a cakewalk. It's going to take some work, but it's worth pursuing. Second question, what is a healthy payroll to revenue percent for lawn maintenance? This is a difficult one to answer, and let me just tell you why. There's a couple factors that are going to come into play here. For example, you could run a higher labor to revenue percentage if your properties are very close together and the majority of all that labor is going to production versus drive time, load time, unload time, the non-productive costs, the time you're incurring, payroll expense you're incurring for non-revenue producing items. Another thing to consider is what size equipment are you running? So are you running big 61-inch decks? Are you running 21-inch walk-behinds, push mowers, whatever you want to call them? That's going to greatly impact. So if you're running a $60,000 setup, truck, trailer, and equipment versus a $14,000 setup, then your asset cost, the higher asset cost should be offsetting and driving down some of your labor costs. That's my opinion. So, and also third, what kind of service offering are we talking about? Are we talking about fertilization weed control, pest control? That's going to come down on the labor to revenue spread. If you're talking about maintenance such as mowing, it's going to go up. If you're talking about hand weeding flower beds, the labor to revenue is going to go up as a percentage. So I see anywhere from the high 20s to the 40s as oftentimes being safe numbers, really in the 30s to low 40% if you're running really low expense crews, meaning you can push that labor expense up when you are running a lot of 21-inch mowers. It can support a higher labor expense to revenue ratio than can, say, you're doing commercial work or you're doing some type of work and you've got two 61-inch decks and a stand-on, or whatever you call them. That's going to generally necessitate a lower revenue to labor mix. So those are some ratios you can think about. Not perfect, but just gives you some ideas to think about it, and then you can have conversations with other people. Jonathan, I like these videos. My question is, how do you run and build a business fast and right when working 50 hours a week where you can't take personal calls or do personal business? It sounds like it would be a lot more challenging. That's exactly right. So if you're working 50 hours a week and there's no opportunity, that's challenging. So you're going to have to be creative and you're going to have to get out from under that job as fast as you can. You might think about from the beginning incurring the expense to hire a company that can handle your phone calls. So there are all types of levels. So for example, there is the traditional answering service. There's a company, I believe, Call Boss in Arizona. There's Pink Callers in I forgot what market they're in, where they're based. There's companies that then are another level up that can handle your phone calls. In our world, schedule right into service autopilot, book appointments and estimate, or take credit cards, do all of that for you in service autopilot. Now, if you're asking of them to answer your phone calls, book appointments, potentially sell work, take credit cards and do all that for you, you're going to pay more money. They're like an outsourced employee, but that may be worth it. If you just need an answering service to answer the call so that you can call them back later, then that's going to be a lot less expensive. So you might think about That is an option, getting someone to help you with that type of stuff. That would be one thing I think about. The other one I think about that comes to mind is you've got to be super diligent about automating everything you can. There's all types of, obviously in Service All we have automations, but there's other ways to automate activities using lots of tools that exist out there. All right. How do you maintain when your business doesn't have many repeat customers? For example, window repair. Very difficult. And this is why business model invention, business model strategy is very important. There's no magic answer and such, you're in a one-off type, break fix type scenario where people are going to call you. There's no magic solution for making that a wonderful business. Business model and strategy absolutely matters. If you want, their businesses are not the same. A business with a superior business model will destroy a business with an inferior business model. So the one-off work, the break fix work, the one-off calls for window repair, in my opinion, never result in an awesome business, but it can result in a really good business. It doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. So what you should think about doing is in the window repair business, you're really going to have a big client base, meaning you're going to have lots of clients. So think about endorsements and JVs. If you're in the window repair business, you should be partnering with every lawn care company in your market. You should go become best friends with them, take them to lunch, do whatever you got to do to become the phone number in their cell phone that when a window breaks, you're on that property. So the way you're going to build a business like that's got to be through JV deals. You've got to go partner with everybody that is going to experience the window breaking first. So service providers that could potentially break a window, they all need to know you and they need to have a reason to do business with you. And that will build for you a big book of business, meaning you'll be able to build a business around that. If you're just going to go out and have to drop door hangers and do Google ads and such, it's going to be very expensive per sell to build that business. And you're going to have big gaps in your schedule. So you need a ton of people, service providers and customers that think of you before anyone else. And then in the long term, from a business strategy standpoint, I would highly suggest you think about building your model in such a way where you build in recurring revenue services. So you're in window repair. The natural extension would be, could you get your clients on a quarterly or a semi-annual or an annual window cleaning package where you just show up and take care of it? Maybe it expands into gutter cleaning. Maybe, obviously, window repair, I'm thinking you're in screens, but think about all the adjacent services that in the client's mind space are somewhat related to windows. Think about what's recurring or could be recurring and figure out how to create packages around it and sell your clients into it. So you repair a window, that's an opportunity to sell a client into a ongoing cleaning package. Also, you can use the front end, your gateway service, as you can do marketing around cleaning windows. And then obviously, if your clients who use you for window cleaning know that you also repair windows, you'll be top of mind when that problem happens. So those are some things I think about. Thanks for all the advice. I've been watching your videos since I was 20. Starting a lawn care business, and now I'm 24 with 125 accounts. Do you think getting into power washing is a good idea? To me, it seems like an exit strategy from cutting grass myself, and we get a lot of inquiries about it, but I'm still unsure if it's a good service. It's a fine service, but my question to you, and I don't know your market, we'd have to have all kinds of conversations to figure out the potential of your lawn care business. In my opinion, I could build a lawn care maintenance, mowing, fertilization, weed control business vastly faster and vastly bigger than a power washing business. To me, power washing is an add-on service to a business, but not the whole business. Now, with that being said, there's a whole bunch of individuals that have built phenomenal power washing businesses. Oftentimes when I think of power washing and building a bigger business, I think you're going to have to be in markets where you might get into power washing a home or a building, or a lot of commercial stuff where you're power washing on a regular basis in front of movie theaters and retail centers and parking lots. And so when I think power washing, and I'm not a power washing expert, I think commercial is probably the better side of the business. Can't say for sure. So to me, power washing is an add-on. And my question to you would be, is there a part of you that's trying to find that next service that you think will solve the problems you're currently having in your business or the lack of growth that you're experiencing, and you see that as potentially a solution to that problem? I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just asking you that question. If you see it as like, oh, well, this is the next service, that will be the solution, I'd say no, because I think that generally selling mowing is one of the absolute easiest of all services you could possibly sell. So if you're struggling with that, then I don't think power washing will be easier. Also, you used the words of around exit strategy from cutting grass myself. man, there's no reason you have to cut grass yourself. If you can't get somebody else to cut grass, I would wager that you're going to have just as hard of a time finding somebody to power wash. Again, we'd have to have a conversation to really give you better advice, but I would caution you on jumping to another service type before you build out, say, lawn mowing and services of that type. But do I have negative thoughts around power washing? No, those are just some of the things that come to mind for me. How do you get commercial accounts to pay weekly versus net 30? You don't in some cases. In many cases, you don't. That's the trade-off with commercial. And so when you're thinking about providing selling to commercial, one of the factors in bidding and estimating is the cost of money. So you have to float money. You have to float money for 30 days, 60 days, depends on the size of the commercial property and what they dictate, and that's a cost of doing business. Now, I have had experiences with very, very large commercial companies where we renegotiated the terms, and instead of taking a price increase, we went to a weekly scenario. So it can be done, and these were with very, very large companies that normally ran the show, and we made them a deal. We won't raise the price, but in not raising the price, here's the trade-off we'd like to make. We would like to get paid faster. And we just explained why that was. And we ended up negotiating deals where we got paid weekly. But the relationships originally started with getting paid on 30 and sometimes 60-day terms. So just know that commercial, when they go out to bid, they know they run the show, especially large commercial, and they're going to dictate payment terms. And that's part of the game of their internal business, is managing cash flow, payables, and receivables. And you're going to be subject to that. And it's a different relationship than with homeowners. So you have to be creative and find incentives to get them to pay you faster. Some will, some won't. But that's how it works. How important is to give back to the community in which you work, especially where you have a high route density and exposure? Many thanks for your time. I think it's a very good idea. I think something that we don't think about, and I historically did not think about in my market, was the concept of building a brand. So for the moment, when we say give back, let's talk about the selfish side of this. So from a selfish viewpoint, meaning what's in it for me by giving back to the community, you have an opportunity here to get free PR, to be visible in the market. I underestimated the power of creating a little mini brand inside of a small market, because normally branding and brand building is something that is reserved for companies with massive amounts of money. And the reality is, if you stay in a tight geographic area and you have lots of trucks that stand out, whether they're wrapped or painted or whatever the scenario is, over time of just naturally showing up through marketing and your trucks being everywhere, you will build, and great customer service, you will build a little mini brand inside that market. And a way to accelerate the brand building would be to get involved in the community. That will get you free PR. It'll position you in your potential clients' minds in a different way. There's lots of little advantages. You will potentially then get involved in the community, meet other business leaders, other individuals that are influential in the market that can lead to work. There's just a lot of great things that can happen coming from it. So that's like the strategy, selfish side. Then from the side of just caring and helping other people, I would originally maybe think about starting with the team. So when you say, hey, how can I give back to my community? I think there's this opportunity to really think big and say, hey, what could I do in my community, maybe in this low income area or in this area of town that could be revitalized, or there's families that have great need, and that's fantastic. And I think you should do that. At Service Autopilot, we do all kinds of stuff like that. And we give our team time off to go do things like that we pay for. But you might first think about, how can I first apply that to my team? How can I first take great care of my team? How can I help their families? How can I impact them? And once you've done that, then you can spread out. And I would say just start small and spread out. Maybe you've got a specific set of talents and skills inside your organization. You're good at installations, you're good at maintenance, you're good at something. Maybe there's a way in which you could give back using the skill set of your team, and you essentially cover all the costs and you provide those services to individuals in need. And so think about that before you just say write a check to the community for $500 a month for something that you're like maybe you're wanting to help feed low-income families, and so you're donating $500. Well, I would suggest maybe you donate money plus time. But even before that, what is that skill set that your company is uniquely positioned to provide? Maybe you could provide that labor and that skill set to the community. All right. I'm 21, 120 accounts. What's the onboarding process for customers that put a card on file? I mean, specifically, if I was going door to door, would I take their credit card info once I close the sell? Yes. Email them a template and fill it out? No. You bet. Okay, from a strategic standpoint, Anytime, so for example, you have a conversation, you and I are face to face, we're selling, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love what you've got to go, what you're offering. I love everything about this. I'm really excited. Let me get back to you. The moment that you walk away, so that spread between when you and I were face to face and we were having a great conversation, every minute that passes is a moment in which I am become less and less likely to buy your thing. I think of something else I should have asked, new doubt comes into my mind. I meet some other person like, oh, well, I like them too. Like something will happen. So my point in telling you that is that I would not, I would capture the credit card in the moment. That's when the new client is most excited, wants to do business. Like that's the moment that they're kind of gung-ho about everything. Get the card there, because every minute you let pass, something on their to-do list will get in the way. Something will happen. There'll be some reason why they never get around to giving you that credit card. So I think in the world of Service Autopilot, in the world of Service Autopilot, I have a form built that can capture it. I'd write there from a iPad or something, get them on the client portal, just have a form that create their account right there on the mobile device and have them just hand it to them, have them fill it out, whatever the case might be, but capture it right there. And you can just make it part of the onboarding process in that, hey, all I need to do to get you started is I just need to get the credit card number that you want to use to pay with, and we'll be out here tomorrow or the next day or whatever the pitch is. But go ahead and finish it out right then. My point here is that you don't have to send them a form, because you could literally have them just put that data right into a device, into a secure place, and then you don't even see the credit card. You can even tell them, hey, if you put this in, my team, we can't even see the credit card number, so I just need you to finish this one step. And then the last question is, how can I job cost when I've bundled services into one monthly payment? We always mow, but we only sometimes do bushes, spray beds, etc. Yeah, okay, I get the question. All right, so, that was, again, I can't help it, but I live in the world of Service Autopilot, so let me just tell you how we do it, and this will answer the question. And if you happen to use Service Autopilot, problem solved. If you don't use Service Autopilot and you don't want to, look around for something that does it the way I describe. So in a lot of systems, they work more in a work order format, and what I mean by that is they have a work order, and I got to mow the lawn, trim the bushes, blah, 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 all these things, and they job cost and track time at the work order level. The way we operate is we job cost and track time at the job level. So for mowing, for fertilization, weed control, for hand weeding the beds, for trimming the bushes. So you need to find a system that will job cost and track time and who worked the job at a job level. So from a billing standpoint, let's say you bundle it together into an annual agreement or installment billing, meaning they're going to pay $200 a month, 12 months of the year. All in our world, the way I think about it, all that is it's just bundling up a bunch of work into a set monthly price. But inside of that agreement, you still have mowing at 32 cuts a year, and you have trimming the bushes at 3 cuts a year, and you have fertilization, weed control at 6 applications a year. Those are just jobs and visits inside of a contract, inside of a package, whatever your language is. And so my point in telling you this is that all you have to do is have a system that can bill at that level but tracks time and who did the work at a job level. And if you do that, then you can job cost even though you've priced it out in that way. And so for example, in our system, even though you're charging $200 a month, you can put in and say, hey, when I bid the job, I bid the mowing at $45 a week, 32 times a year, and I budgeted that it would take 1 man hour. So you just put into the system that the way I estimate the work, because the way you arrive at a bill or an estimate is you break the work out and you say, okay, we're going to cut the lawn 32 times a year times 45. We're going to do 5 applications at $58. You just multiply those out and you add it up. You're like, okay, the total amount is $2,400 a year divided by 12. It's $200 a month. I mean, that's how you worked it out. So you arrived at a service price for every item in that agreement. So you just put in what was that price. You put in the agreement amount, so the system bills it, and then you put in the price for each job with the number of visits and the budget time, and then we can compare budgeted versus actual time. Are you above budget, under budget? We've got a report in the system that tells you throughout the year, have you produced more work than you've been paid for? So for example, maybe in June, you've thus far billed out $1,200, but you've actually produced $1,700 in work. So it's called an over-under report, kind of tells you where you're at any moment in time on that contract, but it doesn't keep you from being able to cost out the individual jobs against labor and materials and such. So hopefully that makes sense. If not, just reply to this video below and I'll expand on that. So the point here is that just don't get hung up in the overall billing amount. Just think about the individual jobs that went into providing that estimate and ultimately providing the contracted amount. And whatever system you're using, put in the individual amount you charge for those jobs. In our world, we wouldn't bill the individual amount. We'd only bill the contracted amount, but we've got all the data then to cost it for you. So that's how I think about it. If that doesn't make sense, ask further, because that's a fantastic question and it's one that really does matter. All right. Well, thanks for all the questions. If you've got more, post them below this video and I'll answer them in about a month when I do this again. See you later.